All right, we've been talking about this all week because it's an outrage. As I said, I believe the Attorney General of the U.S., of the United States, Merrick Garland, poked the bear by essentially agreeing with the National Association of School Boards in their claim that parents showing up to school boards are the equivalent of domestic terrorists. I want that to sink in, that moms and dads that are showing up to school boards, that their tax money funds, that has their kids held captive 8 hours a day, that speaking into what these kids are being exposed to is the equivalent of a domestic terrorism. You talk about arrogance, about government run amok. This is it. Well, joining me now on my panel to talk about this was several panelists that we had earlier today here at the Pray Vote Stand. We had a couple of panels on education, and they were just fantastic. And if you weren't here, you missed it, but we might let you watch it later. Joining me there at the far end, Meg Kilgannon. She is our senior fellow for education studies here at the Family Research Council. And then we have Jonathan Koeppel. He is from Louisiana. He's a public school teacher. Former public school teachers, taught Spanish, but he spoke out and they didn't like it. And then we have Quisha King, a parent activist. Now, Quisha, I'm going to start with you because you don't look like a terrorist.
My kids might think I am at times, but no, I am not.
Let me just ask you, I mean, in all seriousness, what do you think about that this idea that parents who are speaking out about what your children, what they're being taught, that somehow you are the equivalent to a domestic terrorist?
I find it extremely disgusting, quite honestly, that our government would use the FBI to be weaponized against parents who are simply concerned about our children's education. I think that's what we're supposed to be concerned about. We're supposed to question elected officials. They work for us. And so for them to turn around, we put them in office, and for them to turn around to say that we are equivalent to domestic terrorists is insane.
Well, for years, we heard from those in education that parents aren't involved, and that we need parental involvement in education if our children are to succeed. And so all of a sudden, because of COVID and parents seeing what their children are being taught, are saying, wait a minute, I don't like this. I want to get involved in my child's education. And now the government says, no, we don't want you involved in this. Mm-hmm. Jonathan, I'm going to get you to comment on this, because your story is that you, as a teacher, you saw what was happening in the classroom, and you went to a public hearing at a school board meeting in conservative South Louisiana, my home state, and I know a lot of the folks down there. You spoke out, and they didn't like it.
No, and of course they didn't like it, because it brings attention to the things that everybody wants to sweep under the rug. So nobody wants the rug moved away, because then you see all the trash. And so that's all I did, was just show everybody the trash that was happening.
What did you bring attention to?
So they had at that first meeting, they had a program called Brain Pop that was telling Black kids they don't have a chance in life, that they're oppressed by white people. And then another video from Brain Pop about gender identity, where a kid can be whatever gender they want, which is not true. There's two genders, male and female. And the next one, I brought some parents, I encouraged some parents to come with me to the school board meeting to tell their stories of what's happening to their kids being basically discriminated against for having different political views than their teachers.
And so what happened?
Well, I didn't get fired at that point. I thought things were good. I said, maybe my school respects my First Amendment right to free speech. Maybe they're okay with it. And, maybe they just don't like me, and I can live with that. But I went all summer long, went traveling, went to all kinds of events, traveled the country, had a great time.
You were on Washington Watch. That was probably what did it, I guess.
Maybe that was it. But, I get back to school on the first day, and I didn't have a mask on. And they told me to leave at a breakfast where nobody's wearing a mask. I'm like, why do I have to leave? Because I wasn't wearing a mask at the breakfast where nobody was wearing a mask. And I had the medical exemption that they approved for me not to wear a mask. And of course, it was because of the things I was doing over the summer. And that all came out in the meetings I had with them, and now I'm fired, of course, and I'm suing them. So
you have a lawsuit just filed this week.
it's a lawsuit, baby.
Well, we'll see what happens. What are you suing for?
So the medical discrimination, political discrimination, I was put into a category as a Trumper because I didn't want to wear a mask. There's people who do not support President Trump and also don't want to wear a mask, but I was put in that category. So I got political discrimination, medical discrimination. Then there's retaliation for all of that. Then they had issues where they said my free speech was unprofessional, insubordinate, and then it breached school board policy, which it didn't, because everything I did was outside of the workplace. I never brought any of that stuff into class, and it was all done on my free time, where I should be able to do what I want because I'm an American living in America. And there's a lot more to it. It's a 39-page lawsuit. Everything's listed in facts. It's a public document. I encourage anybody to figure out how to look at it. I'm going to post it. I would love for everybody to read it and just have some fun, because it's some silly things. I was even told that I couldn't vote. This is the worst of it. I'm banned from school board property. And they said I can't go vote without getting permission from them first. And you can't tell somebody they can't vote in America. So there's so many things to this lawsuit. It's really big.
That's voter suppression.
Oh, absolutely. It's racist. It's absolutely racist.
Meg, let's go to you. What's happening in public education? Is this something that's been going on and the curtain has now been pulled back?
It's someplace that we got very slowly and then all of a sudden, right? It has absolutely been happening for a while. And like you were saying, in South Louisiana, the conservative area where Jonathan is teaching, that school board is a little pond of blue in a sea of red. Education, the educational industrial complex is really dominated by one kind of thinking, progressive thinking. Just like Silicon Valley is controlled by progressive thinking, so is education controlled by progressive thinking. So we really need to speak into that system. What
we are seeing in terms of the reaction, you have the Attorney General of the United States. I mean, this is unprecedented that they are creating a task force to actually look into how they can prosecute when it's not even their territory. So I mean, this is really a reach. It's an overreach. It shows that parents are having an impact.
It absolutely does. I mean, if you're winning, then you don't have to stick the FBI on your enemy, right? And that's essentially what the Biden administration has done to parents. And so obviously the truth we are speaking at those school board meetings is resonating in the community, and they realize that they have to answer our requests, but they don't want to. So they seek to delegitimize our voices,
right,
and to demean and belittle us.
And intimidate.
Quisha,
I'm going to ask you this question. I think I know the answer. Are you intimidated by this?
I am not. I think their worst mistake was making this type of statement or memo or whatever it was, because I think that's going to mobilize and organize even more mama bears to stand up for our kids. And I find it very funny that these school board members and teachers and all these people that are against us, that they are supposed to be teaching, but they can't even determine that there are two sexes, two genders. I mean, they don't even know basic biology. So.
Or they won't admit it. And that's what's so dangerous about this. They know the truth, but they won't speak it out of fear. Quisha, what was to borrow a term that's prevalent, what was the trigger for you that caused you to get involved?
The original trigger was what I spoke about earlier, where God spoke to my heart and told me that my skin color had become an idol in my life. And so that was the original light bulb for me. And I started looking more into the critical race theory and those types of things because of what God had revealed to me. And I just started getting more involved. And then the Board of Education, the ban against critical race theory in Florida came up. And so I went and spoke. And that was... and
by the way, that video went viral.
It did. Yes, it did. I mean, and it was... If anything, if we're going to fight for anything, our faith and our children, certainly are what I believe we will all, are willing to put our lives on the line for. And we can't stand by while this next generation just goes astray. I certainly won't, and I know many of us won't.
Well, I know in 2010, we had the Tea Party movement, which really had an impact on American politics, elections. I'm hoping that we'll have a mama bear movement that will fundamentally change America. Because as you said, there's nothing more precious, nothing more important to us than our children. And, I still believe the vast majority of people care about their children. I don't buy into the government's line that they have to take care of our children. I think moms and dads want to take care of their children. Jonathan, let me ask you this question. Now that you've been, kind of traveling the country, you've had a little bit of a platform as you've spoken out. What are you hearing from other teachers?
So it's mixed, right? You got a lot of teachers that say, think like me or think like us, or who believe in free speech. They would love to speak out, but they're concerned about getting fired. So they see people like me. They see that, this guy got fired. So if I do anything, I'm going to get fired. I don't want to lose my retirement, my health care. But they got this whole list of things they don't want to lose. And because people are just irresponsible with money, they got debts. They got things to where if they do lose their job, they're in a very bad situation. So I get that from people. And they tell me, I can't do what you did because if I do, I lose everything. And to me, I'm just like, well, you could be silent or you could speak up. You need to choose one because being silent is not helping anybody. But there's a lot of silent patriot teachers, as I guess that's what we call them, silent patriots or closet conservatives that are out there. They're scared. They're scared, and they need to see more people being brave, being courageous. That's what they need to see, but they're scared.
Meg, if more stood together and stood up, they wouldn't be able to take the type of actions they took against Jonathan.
Absolutely, because I think that there's more for us than against us. But everybody's just scared.
So let me ask you this. Well, you're not supposed to ask the question unless you know the answer, but I don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Would you do it again?
Oh, absolutely. I would do it again. I regret nothing. At first it was just like this kind of weird thing, but now I feel so purposeful. I feel like I did the right thing. I feel peace. I wake up, I'm happy. Everything that I do, it just has life and it brings me joy. And so looking back, it was a good, okay, I lost my job, whatever. I'm a young man. I'll be okay. God gave me a good brain and some good hands.
And you taught Spanish.
And I speak another language. So I can be okay here or in Mexico.
Well, you wouldn't have much traffic going that way.
No.
The traffic is heavy coming.
Yeah, it'd be smooth sailing.
Yeah. So, Meg, what needs to happen? I mean, is this a moment? That we need to seize?
This is absolutely a wonderful opportunity for everyone to demonstrate their lack of domestic terrorist inclinations by taking as many friends as you can to the next school board meeting you have the opportunity to go to. And you don't have to become a speaker there. Your presence in that room and your attention to the conversations that they're having will change the room.
Yeah.
It will change the conversation.
And I would add this. I think we should, at a minimum, write to our school board members and ask them to denounce the National Association of School Board, the association that said parents showing up are the equivalent to terrorists. We need to get our school boards on the record that they support parents showing up.
Maybe all school boards should support a parents' bill of rights.
Yeah.
For parents and honor parents as the primary educators of their children, which we are.
That's right. Let me, it's a great segue as we wrap up the program is that, I've said this many times before, God has given parents the authority and the responsibility to educate their children. You can delegate the authority, but not the responsibility. Parents, you will be held accountable by God to what your children are taught. And, I've just seen it so many times as whatever we sow into our child's life or don't sow, eventually there's going to be a harvest. And it's so much better if we invest in our children and sow the truth of God into them at a young age so that they will walk with him all the days of their lives. And as a parent, it's a much better place to be. Meg, Quisha, Jonathan, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for being here at the Pray Vote Stand Summit.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
All right.